Welcome back to the Line Golf Academy. So today is a little different video. I helped this gentleman out in one of our Reddit Live swing analysis series on Sundays where I helped him with his cause and effect, and he reached out to me a few weeks later and wanted me to take a deeper dive into his golf swing. And just to give you a little background, we've met on Zoom and we talked about his current state of his golf swing, where he wants to take it down. And this is a very accomplished amateur player. He was a +2 or +3 on the right side, and currently he is suffering, and he's probably about a 4 or 5 handicap, but wants to figure out what is going on with his swing. His current misses are both sides, plus he typically has a pretty big miss left when he does miss it based on our conversation. So I wanted to take you along. This is going to be for him, but I wanted to take you along because you know I'm about the education and hopefully just be a fly in the wall while I talk about his golf swing cause and effect. And if you do like this type of stuff, hit that like, share, subscribe, but let's get going. Okay, Kobe, so I brought up your videos and we're going to start with the down the line drive round. And I know when we spoke on Zoom, I asked for some old videos of when you were actually striking the ball pretty well, so at least I can kind of see where it was and where you are now, and I can give you some ideas on what I see can be causing your misses and your pretty big misses from what our conversation is. Now, overall, what I like to do is, you know, we got these lines up for a purpose. We're not going to use them to hold you accountable for these positions, but we do use them to see some cause and effect. So when I look at your swing, what I try to do is we look at the overall motion, and you can see the body is trying to do effectively the same thing. So we don't see much difference in the body, although there is a difference. We're just looking at the overall motion, and right off the bat it is very hard to see any difference. But when I start breaking down this swing, I really do notice some difference, more specifically in your hands and where that club is sitting throughout the entire swing. So let's just start off right at the bat with our setup. Now, these camera angles are pretty good. We can consider them about the same, although maybe one might be slightly closed, slightly open. It's not going to make that big of a deal when we start breaking down the swing, and right away we can see where that lower plane meets and the spine angle meets. The one on the left side is a little bit more heel balanced than the one on the right side. So we are talking about this area right here in the blue circle. The older swing just looks a little bit more tighter. Now, it might be a game of millimeters, but this will definitely play a part in the way you swing. Now, I also wanted to make sure if this was changing your arm hang position, so we're going to do a quick little measurement to see, is this really changing your arm hang? And thankfully it is not. We can see we're pretty close to where we are originally. So that's what I mean by your setup looks about the same, besides this little spacing that you do have now. And this does play a part because it starts to affect with your momentum. And I know we talked a little bit about momentum and how it drives your swing, and if you lose control of that momentum, that's where some issues could arise. So as we take that club back right here, we immediately see a difference. With the old one, you can see you're right on that plane line. There's that nice little circle. The new one, if we back it up a little bit, we can see that circle is definitely bigger and your club head is below that plane. Now remember, not to hold you accountable for the best golfers on the planet, but a majority of them, I would say almost all of them, are either at that plane line or above that plane line, which is right on this side. So you would like to be at or slightly above. Now that really assists you in slotting the club correctly and also controlling your momentum, because right now this momentum is lower than the plane. It's going to pull back here, and that's going to pull your body back. So you can see your head is already adjusting further away from your square to show you where your head movement is. The older swing is a little bit more tighter, and we can see a big difference once we start slotting the club. The newer motion is slotted lower to that primary plane line. The older motion is already slotting up to the secondary plane line, even though you are still being nice and connected to the center of your chest. So you do a really good job of staying centered on both of these relative to your turn. Now that could also explain why you maybe had to set up a little bit further away from the ball, because you needed to move your weighting back to the center to accommodate that momentum shift that the club pulled your body back. However, Watch this move. As we get to the top of the swing, look at what your head does. It slots back forward into that little square where the older one is always been in that square, and it's actually slightly up. So a big difference here. If we go right to the top of your swing, right when you start that transition, look at the angle that the club is sitting in already. Here we have one that is laid off, and here we have one that is pointing straight to your target. Now this could stem from what we talked about with your injury that you did have that shoulder. So I'm just curious if this is a position because your body's protecting itself from that injury, or if you are doing this for other reasons, maybe to try and get this a little bit more shallow down in your golf swing. And I know we talked a little bit about being deep enough, so clearly this newer motion is deeper than your centeredness check, but look at the older motion. It is right on top of that centeredness check. I would definitely prefer to be on top of the centeredness check because it's a lot easier to slot a club from high to low than work with a laid off position to keep it on that lower plane line, which you do suffer a little bit on the way down. The big key we're going to look for is we're going to draw a triangle check on both of these and take a look at where those hands would like to go based on the center of that triangle. The one on the right side is definitely going to be steeper versus the one on the left side. Now, does that really occur? Let's take a look at the left one first. We see that it tries to follow that triangle pretty good. It does move slightly outside to the right on our view, but it's still pretty good. The one on the left side, it slots perfectly, so it's so much better in terms of the slotting, because as you get to that initial slot setting where you are trying to match that top plane line, look at this one. It is matching that top plane line where this one is very flat. So we have to activate our right hand at some point to close that gapping down. This gapping here has to be closed somehow. Typically it is done with an overactive right hand, and when you have an overactive right hand and you're coming from the inside so much, this is where that club face path relationship could cause some pretty significant issues. Hard left, and if you don't time it right, yes, you can hit the occasional block or double cross yourself. And you'll also notice how much more your body has moved down with the new swing versus the old swing. You don't necessarily have to move down because that plane is steeper already. You don't have to create any spacing at impact because you are pretty shallow on the left side of the screen. And then as we come on through, you can see that that club on the right side has just met that lower plane line, which is perfect, where the club on the left side has gone below that lower plane line, which now again, your right hand has to activate, or you have to get some excess rotation to get that club head to square up at impact. And remember, excess rotation or right hand manipulation, that's where club faces can get closed pretty quickly. Plus, if you're going slightly right of your target with your path with a closed club face, that's where the snipes come in, and that's not a good recipe. Now you take a look at something interesting. The arm hang is the same on both of these swings, just like it was at address, but look at the body change. The one on the left side is working more down and opening up more to get that club head to move back to that lower plane line. The one on the right side, you might be losing your spine angle a little bit, but that's just because it is a steeper motion. You don't need to create excess room for the hands and arms to work in their motion because they're just steeper. They can work more up and down, which is fine. And I think this will allow you to see how much more tilting you need to establish with that newer swing. You have 8 more degrees of tilt at this impact position, so we can start to see some manipulation of the tilting, which is normal when you have to come from the inside, because that extra tilting helps you keep that club face moving further right to also accommodate that extra turn that you have. So they kind of counteract in each other to keep your hand path relatively in control. So I just see there's just a little bit too much moving parts on the left side of the screen to maintain a consistent motion. So I think what you need to look for, and we talked about this on our Zoom meeting, is that centeredness, finding that centeredness in your stomach and just contracting that centeredness. But I think what we need to try and do is just go back to having a little steeper swing, because your numbers are still pretty good. I don't know if you can take a look at here. This is your previous shot. It was 295.6 carry, 320 with the roll. Your launch angle 16. It might be a little high for that launch angle just because you are steep. I'm not sure what your angle of attack was, but those numbers look fairly solid for that motion. But I want you to get back with me and let me know if you think that you are getting in these new positions because of that shoulder injury that you suffered in basketball. That might be a concern, but I remember you said it was your left shoulder, and typically when you have issues with that club laying off, it's because of the right rotator cuff is not able to do that in a good position. I don't think that's the case, because if you take a look at your right shoulder, the amount of rotation you have on that right shoulder, it's actually more now than it was previously. So I don't think this is a shoulder issue. I just think it's a setup issue, a momentum control, keeping that club head above your plane line, feel like you're back to being slightly steeper. There's going to be less manipulation with the rotation and tilting. And just to help you see that even more, let's look at that impact. Look at the footwork. Look at the one on the right side, how that left foot is receiving more of that weight drive by rolling over, where the one on the left side, there's not a lot of roll over anymore. That's because we're so focusing on turning and tilting. We're not really driving as much power as we potentially can on the right side. So let me know your thoughts on that. Let me know if that makes sense to you. I checked your face on. Your setup looks pretty good. It looks identical to what it was quite some time ago. So it's not a ball position change. I really think it comes down to this laying off at the top of your swing and where that stems from. So let me know your thoughts on that. So I hope you guys did enjoy that. It is just basically what I try and do to help people out. So if you do have a swing that needs to be checked out in further detail other than our Sunday Reddit live stream, just get in contact with me, Tony at LionGolfAcademy.com. But we'll just wait and see, and we might do a follow-up lesson to see how things have changed. Other than that, I'll see you for a normal video tomorrow, and I don't know what it's going to be on, but it's going to be something exciting, something with our new green line. Hope that helps you. Fairways and greens.